I am so sorry about that. I have just recently learnt something. So, welcome to part two of the amazing story and interview with the Aubrey Abraxas, the Queen Aubrey. Like, she's just an incredible. She has her own business and everything, and we'll get into those sort of details later as well. But currently, right now, we're actually sharing her story on when she just had to leave, choose her partner over her father. So I'm just going to do a quick fill in before she jumps in. She was staying with extended family. Like there is a very big trigger warning to this live, and now she's here. I'm going to get her to come back in. Oh, hi, Dad. How are ya? Oh my God, why can't I add you? I have no requests. This is very odd. There we go. All right. Accepting. There we
Hello,
go. You are back. So sorry about that. As I was just saying,
you're
we've
fine.
now learned that Instagram has a 1 hour limit on lives.
I had no idea.
Neither did I. But welcome to part two, and I'll let you go back with your story. I've given off the trigger warning so everybody knows what to expect.
Oh my goodness. Um, so sleeping with one eye open, I wanted to run away to far away. I could not trust the person who I married. I had made like in case I die, in case something happens to me, like
So
letters
you'd
to people.
essentially written your unofficial will.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I was
that's
like, I'm at fear
scary.
of my life because this happens. My husband is not protecting me as he should. Um, so yeah, I sent that to several people. Um, and so his mother was upset that I was going to visit his family, their family.
And why was she
And
upset? Like, is there any reason behind that? Or was it just because that she's a racist fascist?
yeah, that's exactly. Um, Give me one moment.
That's completely fine.
Good night. So,
That's okay.
um, she was upset. So I was bedridden. I was bedridden. I lost 30 pounds in the beginning of my pregnancy. As you can tell with all the medical stuff I was
Hmm.
dealing with, it took a toll on me physically. And
Dealing
so I
with
was
a
bedridden.
pregnancy, lupus, and the stress, the PTSD, the domestic violence. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. There is no surprise you lost 30 pounds. 30 pounds is
Yeah,
equivalent to 40, 50 kilos?
maybe. I don't know the conversion.
I'm not very good with the conversion. If anybody's able to correct this, I don't do pounds. I'm in kilos. Australians use the metric kilo system.
It's so funny. Yeah, America is the only one that has like different measurements.
Your math simply confuses me because it doesn't round
Yeah,
up to a whole number.
it confuses everybody.
But yeah, so you've lost weight. You've got her jumping down your throat for not wanting to go to family. Like, continue on with your story.
Okay, so she was pressuring us to get an abortion because
No.
she was so fixated on me dying giving birth. And she's like, my son does not deserve to be a single father. And so she was really pressing us to get an abortion, and I was completely against it because, as you can tell, I
Hmm.
looked at this like this is a miracle.
The
And
fact that you became pregnant is a miracle.
yeah, and I could not live with myself doing that. And this is not to put judgment on anybody who is in that position, but I'm speaking for myself in that position that I did not want to make that choice. I couldn't live with myself. And so, um, it was like, I think my flight to run away was like on Tuesday.
Hmm.
And
And where did
on
you
Sunday.
first run away to, and what was the reason to why you ran there? And if I remember correctly, you took your amazingly adorable dog with you. You did not leave it
I
behind.
did. Yeah.
I remember seeing all of the photos. What's that thing that your dog was in? Is that like a baby holder?
It's actually a pet carrier I got from
No
Florida.
way.
Yeah. I
See,
got
we
it
don't
from
have
Florida.
those here in Australia. Well, we probably do, but I've never seen them before.
People stop me all the time. Even today, I had him on my chest today. People are like, "Where'd you get that?" And I'm like, "Florida."
That's
Yeah,
incredible
he
because
loves
I
it.
always thought I honestly, my honest opinion was you bought it because you got it for Luna and you were just letting her use it.
No. No, it's a pet carrier I got from Florida because he hates like walking on a leash and he just always wants to
Ah,
be close to my
yep.
chest. Um,
But yeah, so
so yeah,
going back to the story, like you fled with your dog, you fled with your while you were pregnant, and when you fled, where did you flee to, and why was that where you went on? So you were saying you flew out on Tuesday. Where did you go, and what was
well,
the reasoning behind it all?
yeah, so I flew out on Tuesday to be with his extended family who I'm extremely close with.
Hmm.
And they had no idea of this going on. Um, they had no idea of this going on. So they just looked at it like, oh, you're on vacation to spend time with us. And so that's how I wanted it to be because I was still trying to process this whole situation that, like, I am in fear of my life. And to go to his family and tell him that, like, I didn't at that time feel like it was appropriate. Here's where things turned.
It's
His
never
mother,
technically appropriate under any circumstance, but at the same time, you have to speak your truth because
exactly.
as our core cultural belief for me and my people, it's you do not lie, and
Yep.
the minute you lie, you are not worth an ounce of truth.
Yes, that's deep. That is so deep.
Because I come from a
So,
culture, I can't lie. I am a horrible liar.
me too. Like even to keep a secret about a gift. Like it's so hard for me.
Hmm.
Ah, yeah. So, um, I was having an amazing time, as you saw, with my dog
Hmm.
and his family. I
You
was
were
having a
seeing
great time.
snow. You were going everywhere.
I was, and I was like, I was the happiest I've ever been. Like
But then
I
that
left
that took a
everything.
turn very quickly, though, didn't it? Like that
It
didn't
did.
last.
It did because his mother called the family and she called like complaining about me, saying lies about me. She was saying things like Aubrey is a scum of the earth and my son doesn't deserve to be with her. Like just hateful things that
Hmm.
like yeah, just stirring the pot. And so
That's the perfect term. I like that one.
exactly. So she was instigating stuff because she was angry that I refused to get an abortion. She was angry that I wasn't. Again, this is about a control.
Hmm.
She and her son, they both wanted to like control and manipulate me. And because I finally stood up against them after all these years,
You were made to
um,
be the victim. You were made to be the worst person possible. Am I right in
yeah,
saying?
they put like a target on my back. And so they were trying to make like things difficult. And so they called the family saying all these things. And the family's like taken aback and they're like, Aubrey's a wonderful person and blah, blah, blah. And so that's when I had to, unfortunately, tell them what's going
What was
on.
going on? Yeah.
Yeah,
So you allowed a couple of weeks of peace before you actually filled them in with what was happening. You just went away for a
yeah,
holiday, and that honestly, when you go see extended family, that's what it should always be. You should never have to be
yeah,
going there to, as you did, flee, but you didn't tell them that you were technically fleeing.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So they just thought I was on vacation. And that's how I was trying to maintain it because I'm not an instigator. And I just was forced to come clean and tell them, look, this is what's happening. I'm in fear of my life. As you can tell why
Hmm.
this person who called and just kind of told on themselves, um, which I feel like I kind of want to tell the audience. Like sometimes when we
Tell.
are done injustice, we feel like we need to like speak about the injustice, but I feel like just keep quiet. They're gonna tell on themselves. And
They
so
do.
that's what happens. Yeah, they always do.
The
And
narcissist will always do the narcissistic thing if the victim keeps quiet. They will
yeah,
stir, as you said, stir the pot because you're not giving them the reaction.
yes, yeah, that triggers them is when they cannot get a rise out of you. And
Mm.
again, I didn't know any of this stuff until therapy. So in the
Therapy is
moment,
incredible.
I know, and I highly support people
I
to go
highly
there.
support therapy. I also do want to say, though, that therapy does not work for everybody. And if it doesn't work for you, find an ulterior motive. But if it does,
Thank
it's
you.
incredible. It works for me, it works for you. But I know it
Yeah,
does not work for my brother. He's tried multiple times. I won't
yeah,
mention names or anything like that, but therapy just doesn't work for some people.
yeah, because if they're not honest with themselves, the therapist only knows what the patient is telling
Patient is
them.
telling them, yep. And
Yeah,
that is a big thing for therapy as well. For all of the audience, when you do go to therapy, it really does help, no matter how hard it is, no matter how grueling it is, and no matter how much you want to lie to yourself, don't.
yes, yes. So my mom was with me, and so my mom is packing. It's her last day. She's packing, getting ready to go to the airport in an hour. And I get a call from my ex, and I'm like, oh my God, why is he calling me?
Mhm.
And like, I just had that feeling like this is not good. And he called me and he said that he had visited his parents
Mhm.
and that basically his parents were upset that me and my mother were with his family, and they felt a type of way about it because
But
they
when you're in a
felt
relationship with the man, that's your family too, though. So they shouldn't
exactly.
be feeling any form of remorse for you to go seeing the extended family. Like you had to flee, but at the same time, you had to put it under the perceive of a holiday, and then this is all going to start happening as well. And it's just, is this what then caused you to actually flee properly?
Yeah. So what happened is that he called me, that he visited his parents, and his parents felt a type of way. And I said, okay, we've been married for 7 years. Our parents have never met each other, even to this day. They have never met each other. My mother has tried several times to meet his parents,
Wow.
and every time they would stood her up. Every time.
See,
And
that's not okay.
so yeah, he's saying that his parents feel a type of way. And I brought this up. I'm like, every single time my mother has tried to meet your parents, they stood her up. And um, he then went on to say, well, this whole time it was me. Like he lied about it. Like
So it
he had
wasn't,
said,
wow.
yeah, that he had said that, to meet at this location at this time, my mom would go and his parents wouldn't be there. And he had made
Is
up
that
like all
because he
these
just
excuses.
didn't tell his parents, or he just sent
He
your mum on a goose chase?
he sent my mom on a goose chase. He never told his parents, and he said that he did that because he was ashamed of his racist parents meeting my mother. And I was just like, my mind just exploded. Because first
Mine's a
of
little
all,
exploded because I don't ever remember you telling me this part.
there's so much stuff.
Wow.
So
Like, oh
my
my
mind
God. Like, why
exploded.
couldn't they have just met and then sorted it out instead of him
Right?
going, I'm ashamed?
Yeah. I was like, I've been married to you, living with you, sleeping next to you, and this whole time it was you all along lying. And so then
And
those thoughts started to come into my head like, what else are you lying about? And so I was
is this where you found
angry.
out about the affairs?
Not yet. So,
Oh, there's more even before that. Wow.
yeah. And so he went on to say that his parents felt bad when he came clean to his parents that he put my mom on a goose chase. that his parents felt bad and invited her to Thanksgiving dinner. And so I said to my mom, I was like, my mom still didn't know about the
Mhm.
stuff I just said. Um, I said to my
I
mom,
do remember
his,
you mentioning this bit, making the phone call and having to inform your mother that they were racist. Like,
well,
how did that
that's
make you
after
feel?
this. That's after this. So I told my mother,
Oh,
she's still packing to go to Florida. She's packing her bags. We're taking her to the airport in like 30 minutes at this point. And I'm like, his parents are inviting you to Thanksgiving dinner. Now, Thanksgiving is the day that my sister passed away. So it is a tender moment that I
not
prefer
only
to
being
spend with.
native as well, you've got all of that historical trauma that's completely left out of the books as well on Thanksgiving Day as well.
Yeah. So Thanksgiving, we celebrated honoring my sister who passed on that day. And so he knows this, his parents know this. So they invite my mother for Thanksgiving dinner. That's asking us to set aside our memorial and spend it with you. My mother says yes. And
Because
um,
that's an honorary thing to do. It's like, well, let's set it aside and let's be a family, and then we can still remember your sister.
exactly. So I
I
say,
think that's
okay, my mom
beautiful,
says yes.
actually.
It is.
I think that's beautiful. That is a
So
beautiful thing to do. To give up something like that, to spend time, to then share that with another family is a beautiful thing. But there's obviously more to this story, so continue.
there is. So um, I'm like, okay, let me call you back. I'm dropping off my mom at the airport. We drop her off. Um, come back. The airport was about an hour away. So by the time we drop her off, come back, an hour and a half, 2 hours pass. He calls me back again, and he says, well, I tried to video chat him because at this point I haven't seen his face
Yeah.
all this time that I've been running away. And so I'm trying to video chat him, and he was like acting weird. And I'm like, just like, he put the camera facing the ceiling, and I'm like, show me your face. Like, why are you acting weird? He shows me his face. His face is clean shaven. Now, here's the thing about his face. So he has a beard. His mother, all these years that we've been together, has always told him like shave your beard because she finds it attractive for a man to have a clean shaved face.
Mhm.
And so
Ah,
it bothered
sorry.
me. It bothered me that when the moment that I'm not home, he shaves his face for his mother. Like it
So,
bothers
did he
me.
have a big beard like myself? Well, I don't have a big beard, but did he have a lot of facial hair like myself,
He
or
did.
just
Yeah,
stuff?
he did. It was like years of growing it. And I just found it, of all these years of marriage, you never shaved your beard. And the moment that I'm gone, you shave your beard to please your mother. And it bothered me very much.
It
And
bothers me.
so, yeah, I found it very inappropriate. And I said to him, like, do you not see what's wrong with this? Like, I'm your wife, but you're choosing to please your mother. Like, I find that inappropriate and
Like he's
disgusting.
more than like happy to do it. Like, hey, he's more than happy to do it. But I find it's just a little inappropriate. Like, you've been together for 7 years. This is just
Yeah.
who he is, and then he decides once you leave that he's going to shave it. And what was the reasoning behind it? Obviously, there's reasoning behind it as well.
He made up a bunch of lies. First, he said, "Oh, I think he got like honey or something." He said it was sticky. And then he made up
That was shower.
another one. Yeah, it was just like so many bogus excuses. Then he said it was itchy. So he said it was sticky. He said it was itchy. Like things, like a whole bunch of different stories. And then at the end, he
That
said it
happens
was
every
because his
day.
mother. Yeah.
I'm just sitting there like itchy beard. That's why you sit there and scratch it.
Oh my goodness. So again, it brought up, what else are you lying about? Because this is not something worth lying about. So then
No,
he
it's
got
not.
very defensive. He got very defensive after saying it was itchy, it was sticky. Um, his mother made him do it. He got very defensive and said, I'm a grown man, I can do what I want. But you succumb to your mother bickering to shave your
Mhm.
beard. So, that was annoying. So anyway, that was annoying. So then he said that his parents canceled the Thanksgiving because my mother is too dark to sit at their table. And that triggered me. Like for me,
That makes me angry.
it made me angry. Because normally, like I told you before, I never scream or anything, but in that moment,
Hmm.
like I felt like red coming up and fume coming out of my ears
You have every right to be.
because
Had someone said that about my mother, and I've had on many an occasion, like, so we have a, like, you have your America Day. I don't know what you call it over there, but we have Australia
Fourth
Day
of
here.
July.
There's been, yeah, 4th of July. There's been many occasions, and that's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, on Monday.
Yeah, many occasions where I've been treated very similar by other Australians. It's like, go home. It's like, what? Like, you are not Australian. I'm like, just because I don't sound Australian does not mean I'm not Australian.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
So when you get that thing said to you, like, I've actually put a trigger warning in for this as well, because that triggers me and it's most likely to go and trigger other people. But that's just what gives them the right to say that she is too dark to sit at their dining table.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
whole holiday is built off of your back, off of
Yes.
your culture, off of your ancestral pain. To tell you you're
Yep.
not welcome at the table defies any purpose that Thanksgiving even has. Like, to say that, oh my God, that just infuriates me.
Yeah, I was infuriated at that moment. And so it was just like stuff started piling up, truth started coming out, and I was like so fed up. And I said to him, like, I am done. You need to go to therapy because you shaving your beard to please your mother, who finds it attractive, is inappropriate and disgusting. You need to go to therapy. You need to go to anger management because we're bringing a baby into
Not to
this
mention,
world.
he's got to get on top of his sociopathic tendencies as well, because he was diagnosed as a sociopath as well. So that was the other reason why he had to go to therapy too.
Yeah. And I like these were not, and I said you had to cut off your mother who wants me dead, who has a death wish for me. And he absolutely refused and he laughed at me and he was like, therapy is a joke. And I was like, okay. And I checked out of the relationship
Yeah.
because he was giving me a whole speech about how I'm not worth it. And I was pregnant with
And
his
so
child.
this was now up to, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm right in the right part of the time, like 5 months into the pregnancy now, because we've gone,
This is
those last couple
still,
of weeks was 4 months. Oh no, wait, yeah, because you're still on the holiday, so you're still in the 4 to 4.5 month pregnancy window, not
yeah,
the 5 month
still,
window. So this is all over a matter of just weeks.
yeah. So yeah, the Florida doctors, they were calling me back. They were like, we need you to come back. There's some abnormal. We had a couple health scares during the pregnancy.
Mhm.
This was the first health scare. And so they were like, you need to come back immediately to Florida. And so I had to book a flight like for the next day to come back to Florida. And I remember I was crying. I barely slept that night. I was crying because I was like, I don't want to go back to Florida. I don't even want to see his face ever again. And
No.
his extended family, they convinced me. They were like, this is his kid too. You should have him at the doctor's appointment. You should have him pick, like, try to work through it for the
Mhm.
baby. And so I'm like, oh, so
Being you, you're
I,
like, okay, I'll do it. It's for my
yeah,
daughter.
exactly. And so I had him pick me up from the airport. I remember it was like a late flight. It was nighttime. And I had my chihuahua. So I had my chihuahua strapped on my chest. And I was holding all these luggages because, mind you, I took a one-way flight to go like run away because I didn't
Mhm.
want plan on coming back. And so I had all these luggage in my hand. I'm pregnant. I have a chihuahua strapped on my chest. And I have him on the phone and I'm like this. And I'm like, I'm going down the escalator. Can you please come and help me? Because my luggage was over 40 pounds each. And
Ay,
he was
Ivo,
making a big deal. Yeah, he was
you're
making a big deal.
pregnant.
Yes. And he was making a big deal to not come inside and help me. And I was like, are you serious right now? I'm pregnant. I'm not supposed to be carrying this weight. Can you come inside? It's not a big deal. And he like this lady behind me just like pushed me for no reason, like unprovoked. We're going down the escalator and she pushed me and I was like, don't push me. And then she pushed me harder and then ran away, like fled the scene. I'm not kidding you. And then luckily the police, they were
Wow.
like there. Yeah, they were there. And I had to like fill out a police report. So I'm still on the phone with him and I was like, can you please come inside? Some lady pushed me. He flips out on me, dropping the F bomb, and he's like, stop making a big effing deal. Come out already. And I was like, I need to speak to the police. And then like I hung up on him because he was getting like a temper. And that's one
Hmm.
of my triggers. So I hung up on him and I was dealing with the police. And then when I was done with the police, I called him back and I'm like, I'm done. Can you help me? And he still refused. And I remember the police, they actually helped me with my luggage to the car. And then he
That's
had the
ridiculous.
audacity.
Thanks for the police for that. Like, that's
Thank
beautiful of
God.
them. But
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And so the police helped me to the car and he had the audacity to say, oh, so you have a police escort? And then I was like, I can't believe that I'm pregnant and you didn't even come running to your pregnant wife who was pushed down the escalator. Like, I don't understand you. And then he's like, I'm trying to be more calm these days. And
Calm my ass.
I know.
Wow.
And so, like, all I could do was a silent treatment. And I had like my
Mhm.
arms crossed in the car and I was like fuming. And I'm like, I'm so
Hi, mom.
sick of this.
She's not my mom, but she's technically like my mom.
And I was just thinking, I'm so sick of this. So he's driving. I have my arms crossed. And he says, I saw my mother earlier today before picking you up. Um, you and her need to sit down and talk because she's the victim. And I'm like, how is she the victim in all of this? How is she the victim? And he went on to say, like, she had a hard life growing up and like this sob
There is
story.
no excuse for racism.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is
And it
absolutely
had
no
nothing
excuse for
to do
racism.
with, it had nothing to do. It was like she had a hard life growing up. She had to eat canned beans. It had
I was
nothing. I'm
homeless at
like, she's
14.
racist
I was
because of that.
homeless at 14. I'm sorry, but there is no excuse for your behavior unless you don't take action for it. And if you don't, then you are
Thank
the
you.
excuse for your own behavior.
Yeah,
There is no
thank you.
other excuse but yourself.
Yep. Yeah, he was trying to say she was a victim in all of this. And I said, I'm the only reason I'm going to sit down with your mother is to tell her that she will never have a place in my child's life. I'm not going to apologize to her.
No.
And so I
Not only has
refused.
she said she wanted you dead, she's wanted to take your child. She's caused nothing but issues when you tried to have a holiday and when you were actually technically fleeing.
Yes.
And now to come back to this, to have to go to a doctor's appointment. Is this when you met your breaking point and then finally never came back?
So we went to the doctor's appointment. We
Hmm.
found out she was a girl, and I was so happy about it. And um, I was slowly, as he was working, I was slowly starting to pack my stuff. Because again, I was still fearful. And here he is telling me I need to apologize to her. And so I was slowly packing my stuff. And but at the same time, I didn't have the courage. Like even though I was so fed up,
Mhm.
it's so hard like to leave.
It is
And
so
then
hard. So I,
yeah,
when I was with my ex-husband, like there were so many fairs. I cannot even count. Like that's how bad it was.
that's
And
terrible.
for me to reach my breaking point, it took me 3 years after I was married and to watch him
Mhm.
literally sending himself over Snapchat through the bedroom window when I was trying to do the cute partner thing and do like, hey, through the window sort of thing. And it took me to do that. It took me to see that before I was able to walk out. I actually literally walked out the very next day. I left
Oh,
everything behind. I didn't do what you did. I didn't pack. I just left everything behind and then I came back from my office.
oh my goodness.
And that's all I took.
Power to you.
Because
Yes.
I'm like, I've lived with nothing. I can build up from nothing and I know how to do this. And I know you can't. So give me my
Yeah.
stuff. Keep the rest. I don't want it.
Yes, yes. So, I spoke with the police. Oh, and I started going to therapy. So I found out she was a girl. The next day, I started to go to therapy. She told me, I was being abused, and she's like, I'm fearful of your life. And I'm like, so am I. And she's like, make a police report. I went to the police.
Mhm.
They said, because he didn't physically do something, they can't do anything about it. They're like, when he does something physically, then call us. And I'm like, WTF. Goes back to women and society, just like,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's if we
So,
actually, unfortunately, even in Australia, it's very much the same. Like to get psychological PTS, like to get psychological DV is a lot harder than physical.
yeah. I'm like, okay,
And
so I have to
usually
wait
nine
till
cases out of 10, they've got to go into therapy before it can be diagnosed, and then they can be charged for it.
it's so sad. So backwards.
Hmm. But isn't that the same thing
I
that happened with you? Didn't you try to take him to therapy as well?
did. So that's the thing. Like, he laughed in my face. He refused to do it. And I refused to allow my child to be in this toxic situation. It was
Hmm.
toxic because he knew that his mother had ill intentions, not only for me, but for our child. And he was just letting it like, oh,
So
la, la,
then,
la, it's
if I
okay.
remember correctly as well, so when you started seeing therapy as well, he did start to see a therapist, but the therapist was a woman or was it a female? And there was issues with that as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, that is like down the line. So I started seeing a therapist and meet like the next day that I flew in back to Florida. I started seeing a
Mhm.
therapist and I saw the police. And the police, they said they couldn't like arrest him or anything, but they did say like you're in a dangerous situation. We
Mhm.
advise you to start packing your bags. So the therapist and the police were both saying the same thing. And so that's when, and they were validating my feelings that I don't feel safe.
Mhm.
And so they were like, start packing your bags slowly. You don't want to alarm him because he's unpredictable. And so they're like, don't trigger him because he has temper problems. And so I was trying to do this on the down low, keep sleep with one eye open. And so he comes home. I flew in on Monday. I started therapy and I saw the police on Tuesday. On Friday, he comes home and I'm like in bed throwing up. And he comes in the room and he's like, I've been doing a lot of thinking and um, I want a divorce. I don't want anything to do with the child because my parents kept putting me back and forth during their divorce. And I don't want that to happen to the child. And pack
Well,
your
at least
blank
there's
and get
some
the F
common
out.
sense there.
Yeah. And then he was like, pack your blank and get the F out. And then in that moment, I was like, thank God, because I had tried to run away several times.
And you had
Um,
already been packing your stuff too, so you're already half done.
yeah, I was shocked, but I was like, if I don't take this opportunity, I don't know. I
If
don't
you'll
know
ever get another
when.
one.
Exactly, because I had tried like several times within this 7 years to leave. And so I packed whatever I could pack. As I'm packing, he is like going through like a midlife crisis, a mental breakdown. He was calling me
He's
the
not
B word.
unpacking everything that you're trying to pack as well, was he? Because in a lot of circumstances like this, people don't want you taking things.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't trying to stop me.
Oh,
Um,
thank God.
he was like having a mental breakdown, calling me the B word, saying it was like very weird because he was saying things that he should be saying to his mother. Like he was talking about his childhood. And in my mind, I'm like, what does this have to do with me? Like he was projecting and vomiting like his childhood trauma onto me. And there was a point where I said to him, I stop it. I'm not your enemy. And it was like the weirdest thing. Like it was just really weird. And so I was just packing my stuff, and I packed whatever I could, like in my little tiny car. I brought my
Hmm.
chihuahua, and he threatened if I went to my mother's house that he would drag me out of there. And I,
That's wow.
yeah. And so many emotions came, like I didn't want to bring this drama to my mother because, mind you, she had no idea this stuff was going on. She had just found out that his parents are racist, and so I didn't want to put more drama onto her.
No.
Um, so I just went to my best friend's house, and he had no idea where she was because, again, she was one of the people he was trying to isolate me from.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he had no idea where she was. And so I went there and I spent the night, and he kept my phone. The phone was in his name. And so he kept my phone. So I didn't
That's
have
fine.
my
Get a new
phone.
one.
Yeah, and so I bought a burner phone, which actually the police told me to get a burner phone.
Hmm.
And so I had bought a burner phone. And
I would have recommended it as well because in under those situations, like having a phone that's not connected to anything is the best thing.
yeah, and so the only number I knew from my head memorized was my mom's. And so I called my mother, and I was like, I don't want you to freak out, but I'm calling you from a burner phone because he has my phone. He kicked me out last night. Um, and I don't want you to freak out. I'm safe. And then of course she's like, come here. And so
Mm.
I met with my mother, and I caught her up on everything, and she was so angry. Like, how, first of all, angry, like, how can you be going through all of this and not tell me?
And not tell me.
Yeah, and it was like so humiliating. Like, even to this day, like, I'm so humiliated
We don't have to be
that,
humiliated by about it because think about it like this. You were at a moment of pure vulnerability and you didn't know who to reach out to. There is no shame in keeping quiet. And no one
yeah,
should ever feel shame in keeping quiet. Once you start to
oh,
speak about it, then you start to heal. There is never any shame in
yeah,
hiding because hiding means staying alive.
yes, that
From someone who
resonates.
was homeless from 14 and I had nobody growing up, and every time I did try to rely on people, I was never able to sit in silence is not always the worst thing because it's survival. And survival is something you should never be ashamed of.
Mm, it's beautiful. Ah, release.
But
It was
that's
like,
exactly what it is. Silence is survival.
hmm. So I caught my mother up. She was just so angry. Nobody wants their child to go through that, especially in silence.
Hmm.
Like, you have absolutely no idea your child is going through that. And so it was like humiliating to tell my mother that, like, yeah, I married this guy who's been treating me this way, who allows his family to speak to me this way, who has no regard for my life. Like,
Not
that
even
was a
your daughters, in all
humiliating,
honesty, either.
yeah, this poor innocent child, um, that they're like pressuring me to have an abortion. And yeah, it was just like, that was a really hard time.
So
That
after
was
you'd
like
fled to your
so hard.
friends then and spoken to your mothers, what was then the next step for you to do?
I had absolutely no idea what to do. So here I am.
That's okay. So I'm actually going to put a mark in this as well because this here, this segment and what you're about to explain is probably going to help so many people who are under these situations as well. But what when you had finally been kicked out, when you had finally left and you finally filled your mother in and you're staying with your friend, what were you going through?
I was going through, like, kind of like withdrawals, because there was a part, it was like a pull and tug internally. Like, internally, I was struggling because I was like still in love with him.
And you wanted to go back, wasn't it? And that's very much typical of what we could call Stockholm treatment, because you've gone through
Mm,
so much domestic violence. It's what you're used to, and in a sense, it actually is like Stockholm syndrome. You wanted to go back to where? Am I right in saying that you didn't have to worry as much, and you thought he was going to look after you, and you thought he was going
Yeah,
to be there for your daughter. So these are the thoughts that were going through your head, like he's
yeah,
going to change.
he's going to change. Exactly. Yeah. I was like, he's gonna go to therapy. Like, he's gonna realize a couple days that I'm gone. He's gonna go to therapy and want me back. And like, I was just like so hopeful and optimistic. And that was not the case whatsoever. Like, he was standing firm that like, if I can't put up with his mother, then there's no us. And I had to be very firm that
And
I'm
this is the
protecting my
toxic
daughter.
belief of blood. Like blood isn't, you don't have to hold on to blood just for the sake of it being blood.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because she was a very toxic, she still is a very toxic person.
Mhm.
They have like a toxic codependent relationship. They don't have a
Yeah,
healthy
I
relationship.
know a lot of people like that. There are a lot of people out there like that. But yeah, so now that you've gone through that and you've gone through all of those emotions and that, so what happens next? Sorry, I just started.
So so I
Yeah, it's a little information about me actually. Every now and then I do have a horrible stutter because I couldn't speak as a kid. I had to go through
wow.
speech therapy.
Oh,
I couldn't vocalize. So every now and then words repeat.
that's fine.
But
So I
so
was
you've
in this awkward situation where I was kicked out, so I'm basically homeless. He cut me off financially, so I was penniless. Um, he was demanding a divorce at my expense. Not he's the one asking for it, but I have to pay for it. So that was his current situation, and so I was trying to tell him like, don't you want a life where you don't have to work so hard, that you have like a quality of life that you get to spend with your
mhm.
child. I was trying to like tell him these things, trying to convince him to have a life with me and his kid. He was just not having it. Like, there was
And
just
then what
no
made you come to
compromise.
the realization to stop having that conversation then? Because this is what's going to help a lot of people. Like, what made you come to the realization to finally stop trying to have that conversation with him then?
He refused to go to therapy. He refused to take accountability for anything. He just didn't want to put in the work. He just didn't. And it empowered me because it was like, if you don't care about me and this child, I'm gonna care about me and this child.
And that is what was your winning combination that now gets you through the rest of this story. Like, the moment
Yeah,
you came to that realization was the moment you came into your own power.
yeah. He sent me a long, so I blocked him from everything.
Mhm.
He found me like by my email, and he sent me a long email apologizing for kicking me out and asking me to come back. And at that point, I was completely done. I was like, you didn't want to work with me. You refused to apologize to my mother for the racist behavior from your parents. Um, you just put me through hell, and just like, you just didn't want to do the work. So at that point, I was completely done, and I was like, I don't want to continue with you. Like, you want a divorce, so I'm going to
So
give you the
let's get
divorce
one.
that you want. So, um, I was trying to kind of tie up loose ends here in Florida for whatever reason, maybe spirit.
Mhm.
I just felt the urge, like, I need to tie up some loose ends. I need to like cross my T's, dot my I's. Um,
And
his
ever since you've
extended,
done that, like from what I've observed of your life, it's just transformed. Your business has taken off. You're
oh,
so much more vibrant now. Not only that, you're modeling, and that was something that he
my
never
God.
wanted you to do. You are
Yeah,
modeling now. Like the profile that you're calling on this stream from is your profile with all of your modeling photos, and they're absolutely stunning. Who does your photography, by the way? They're incredible. Let's throw them in a
yeah,
tag. Chuck them in a
A
tag.
lot of people.
Like literally in the comments, go at and then put their name in and tag your beautiful photographer. They
Oh
need
my
to know because
goodness.
they are incredible. Like I love your photos and I love seeing them on there. But yeah, so
It was
you're now
so
modeling, your
many.
business is going off, and I've actually had the honor and luxury of trying your coffee.
Oh, yes.
Like I've
Yes.
actually tried your coffee from your business as well because you brew your own coffee. And ever since you were able to finally take that step into the power, you've transformed.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Like you've completely transformed because we've been in contact now for over a year and I've watched your story develop and that's why we're going live now. And I reckon this is going to be a three-part segment because we're already at 45 minutes
Oh my
again.
God. Yeah, I'm trying to tag these photographers. It's a lot. So yeah, so yeah, that was a whole other thing. Okay, so what caused him and my father to go head to head? I was in a modeling competition and I was in the top two of like thousands of models.
And you were
And
the
I was
only
like,
pregnant women chose.
well, that was a different thing. In this
Okay.
particular case, I was like in another thing. Um, so in this particular competition, I was like in the top two, and I had never been in a competition. It took so much courage because I'm really shy, and it took so much courage for me to even do the competition. So for me to make it that far, I remember it was like a clock going to
Mhm.
announce the winner, and I was like biting my nails, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I'm like so nervous. Like that's how I was reacting. And he like snapped on me, and he was like, you're not gonna win because you're not white and you don't have money. And I'm just like in complete shock. Like, where did this come from? And I remember I started crying because I was so hurt by that comment. And it was like, is
That's
that how you really
wow.
feel? Yeah. It was like, is that how you really feel? And I he did that in front of my father. And that's what caused him and my father to go head to head.
Mhm.
And he like put me in that position. It's me or your father. And so, yeah. Anyways, I was in this awkward position where I was homeless, penniless, and this guy wants a divorce. I'm pregnant. And it was like almost at the same time, like I have a clean slate.
You
Like
know,
I
you
can
had
do,
nothing but a clean slate from that point on.
yes. So it was like, it was scary and emotional. And I cried myself to sleep like almost every night for months because I was so devastated and heartbroken that I wasn't enough for him, that this baby was not enough for him. And it was a very difficult time for me. And so, mind you, I'm using a burner phone because he had my phone. His family, who I said I'm very close with, they are up to speed on what's going on.
Hmm.
And from their knowledge, I went to Florida and they haven't heard from me in 2 weeks. So they were freaking out. They Okay, one of his family members actually flew to Florida. Like, that's how scared they were for my life that they flew to Florida to make
That's
sure I was still
remarkable. No
alive.
wonder why you still want them in Luna's life. For them to show
Yeah,
that sense of protection for you is incredible. Like his mother and the father, let's just write them off and we don't
yes,
need it. I don't think we need to talk much about them anymore. But
yeah,
to have the family to come in and rescue like that is incredible because correct me if I'm wrong, they're also the ones that took you out of Florida.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So let's get into this now.
when I ran away, um, I had bought a whole bunch of baby stuff because, mind you, I got a one-way ticket, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm not coming back to Florida. But then the doctors called and they're like, you need to come back to Florida. So while I was there for a month, I bought a whole bunch of baby stuff. I bought two cribs. I just bought like a whole bunch of stuff because I'm like, me and my baby are gonna live here.
Mhm.
And I loved it out there. It was out in the country, completely different than my life in Florida.
Yeah.
I lived in the city in Florida. Um, so it was a slow paced life, and that's what I wanted for my child. And so he wanted no part of that. And so his here is his family member in Florida. And I was like, well, I'm homeless. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anywhere to be because I'm my own boss.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll come home with you because I left all the baby stuff there. And so my intentions were to drive out there, get the baby stuff, bring it back to Florida, and figure out
It
life
all
in
out.
Florida. Yeah, so I end up going there and staying there for like 6 months. And because they took care of me and they were like, stay here.
Hmm.
And
I'm so thankful for that. But however, coming to the near the end of that 6 months stay, it was a little bit more tragic because you couldn't have your birth how you wanted it, if I'm remembering correctly.
yeah, so they got me in touch with like a midwife out there. I started going to the doctors and stuff and seeing the ultrasounds, and that was so beautiful. And they
Like
were
it's just
they were such
incredible.
a
Like you
huge
had
support.
such the worst start, but then the end of your pregnancy just gets
So
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah, so they're feeding me, taking like such good care of me, like giving me that support. And then I realize now in retrospect, like why God made me spend 6 months with them. Like there were so many lessons that I learned from being with them that I needed to learn for me to be like a good
And what
parent.
what what lessons are these? Like what were these lessons that you learned?
Okay, so I'm over here
Like what was
penniless.
the eye opener?
I'm over here penniless. They took me to like yard sales and thrift shopping and
I
like,
live for that. You've seen my
oh
house.
my God.
It's all
So,
upcycled, all thrifted.
oh my goodness, before
Like
I knew
even
it,
this,
Luna had like, I love
I paid
it.
$500 and I cut it off of the ground off of a farm and brought it home.
That's incredible.
My shed cost me $500 and I thrifted it by cutting it out of the ground and bringing it home, and that's what I live in now.
I love it. I love that. So I got so much stuff for Luna, like such as clothes. She has so much clothes, it's ridiculous.
They
Um,
always do, and guess what? There's more coming.
yeah. How much time are we at?
So we are at 52, but we will have a part three. So
We're almost
continue on.
done. Yeah, so they just taught me so much lessons. They taught me about like the importance of family, being honest, which is something that he was not. Um, they just taught me so much lessons. Like I truly, truly, truly felt so much love and support. Like the support I wasn't getting from him, like they were giving it to me. They were just so, so
And that's
amazing.
beautiful. But then, unfortunately, though, near the end of it, though, you weren't able to have the baby how you wanted, though, were you?
Yeah, so okay, so he wanted a divorce. So he was like really extremely aggressive with me. Like I remember on Valentine's Day, like he messaged me, that he missed me and stuff. And I kind of like, it was like an up and down with him. And it just started to bring back emotions for me as well. And then he goes on to say that he hates me. And like, it was just from one extreme to another. And it was just like, I'm so sick of this. Like, be consistent.
Hmm.
And it was just like emotionally draining. And it's like, I'm pregnant. Why are you putting me through this mental roller coaster while I'm pregnant? Don't you have any
Exactly.
care in
And
the
especially
world?
when you're nearing the end of the pregnancy as well, you just want it
Yeah,
all over and done with. Your hormones are definitely spiking a lot more because there's a large baby inside of you. And
yeah,
emotionally, you just can't handle the stress that he keeps bringing in.
yes, yeah. And I just told him several times, I'm like, this has an effect on the baby.
Hmm.
And so, speaking of the baby, she's waking up. But it was just an emotional roller coaster. And so he was really pushing for this divorce. And Spirit was telling me, they had told me several times, like, he's seeing someone else, he's cheating on you, he's not being faithful. But I was just like so naive. And so
Hmm.
I finally got the courage to confront him. And I was like, I need you to be honest with me for once in your life. Are you seeing someone else? Are you sleeping with someone else? And he said, nah. That's
Not
it.
even no.
He didn't
Just
say
nah.
no. He didn't try to justify himself. He just said nah. And I'm like, that's it? You're not gonna stick up for yourself? So like
Wow.
everything inside of me was like BS, BS, like lies. And he eventually, again, here's another scenario. Eventually, over time, a couple months later, he
You
put
can
a
grab her
post.
if you need to.
Um, okay, 1 second.
Yeah, go grab her if you need to. We've got about 5 minutes before I'll have to go back live again. But go grab her, calm her down on that. And you know what? I'll actually end the live here and then we'll come to part 3 once we've settled her down for a little bit, all right? And then we'll get into the last bit of this story.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So yeah, I've got to close this down. You tend to her for a little bit and I will post this into the interview feed and then we will go live again.
Perfect. See you soon.